comes today from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And it's on page, in my book, page 56 it starts. And these are the 5 steps to self-confidence. And number 1, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my defined purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistence, continuous action toward attainment, and I here and now promise to render such action. Number 2, I realize the dominating thoughts in my mind will eventually produce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture. In those days, they made long sentences with just commas. Third, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Number 4, I have clearly written down any description of my defined chief aim in life, and I will never stop trying until I shall develop sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. And number 5, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because I know that a negative attitude toward others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula and commit it to memory and repeat it aloud once every day, with full faith that I will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I will become the self-reliant and successful person. Pretty sharp guy. Napoleon Hill was.
Yeah, but a lot of his sentences are all in the future. I will. Did anybody notice that?
No. Okay.
Yeah, but it's still worthy. It's still worthy. Okay, so our speaker this morning took her first intersensitivity, or finished her first ever intersensitivity class in 1973, and she was ordained a minister in 1996. And since then, she has taught classes, she has led services, she has given talks at services, and she continues to give her love and her understanding and her wisdom to all of us. Please help me welcome, speaking to us today on Claiming God's Abundance in Me, Reverend Brigitte Heimers.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, indeed.
Claiming God's abundance in me. Well, abundance in Webster's dictionary is defined as, quote, great supply, more than sufficient quantity, great plenty, wealth, end of quote. And it also includes the definition abound. So it is my conviction that there is no limit to abundance of God that flows to me and through me. So I do not construct barriers to my good, to my prosperity, by denying what is possible. And of course, abundance and prosperity, I find that these words are very complementary, so I use them here in my talk this morning. But it is up to me to keep that free flow of God's goodness moving. As I keep this truth in mind and in heart, I am participating in the free flow of abundance that blesses me and those I interact with, both near and far. And when we look around to the abundant nature on earth, we are reminded of how God provides for our needs and for all needs. The sun's rays help plants grow, and those plants provide oxygen for breathing. When it rains, we are reminded of how God supports all life by blessing the fertile land. God also sustains us through divine wisdom that guides us on our path. So are you ready to get busy expressing wealth in the form of abundance and prosperity right this very moment? Good, then I might find myself preaching to the choir this morning.
Choir's practicing.
So indeed, we know deep within that all of God's gifts are already present. And we are the means through which they express on earth. The question is, are we willing to accept these gifts? Do we have the courage to release limiting thought forms and habit patterns that truly be the light of abundance that we are? And as we say yes to this divine mandate, we open ourselves to be instruments of spirit. And since God is our life, so every divine gift, quality, and attribute is already an activity of our consciousness. At least that is what I think. Among these great gifts that have been given to us are the ability to think and the free will to be the author of our thoughts. However, until we accept in our hearts that our spoken word is the powerful directive to the creative law to act upon our words, they will accomplish nothing. Intellectual acceptance of abundance is not enough, because without the conviction from within that God's law can be used, there is no belief in the divine principle. Thus, we might not be inclined to express. So when words are spoken as an expression of deep desire, they are empowered by God's love, which invites us to make our requests known unto God. I'm sure we all remember this line: ask, believing, and it shall be given unto you. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Ask, believing, and it shall be given unto you. Remember, we are dealing with principle, which is simply that which is and which cannot deny its own nature. For example, gravity is a principle which must hold things in place. Gravity must hold things in place. Certain colors mixed together must produce a third color. Or mathematics must have unerringly to produce true results. And the law of mind must create according to our belief. One step in getting busy to express abundance is to express supreme confidence in God's law, because it is an essential ingredient for successful prayer treatment. It is the first lesson to be mastered if we are to train our thinking ability to bring results. I remember way back, about 40 years or more, in ministerial studies, one of the first assignments was to write a RUCAT treatment for accepting confidence and the consciousness of becoming a minister at the teaching of the inner Christ. Does anybody remember that? So, RUCAT, we have explained before, this is our formula, RUCAT. R stands for recognition of what God is. U is our unification with that, what God is. And the C is our claim. And the A stands for acceptance. We accept in advance what we have claimed. And then the T is thanksgiving, also in advance, knowing that it is coming our way. And of course we heard Dr. Reverend Kelly talking about Napoleon. He had similar ideas in there too. So it's like the ABC of inner consciousness. Just as without a mastery of the alphabet, no words or sentences can be formed. So without inner belief and conviction, no results from thinking procedures can come forth. Therefore, let's get busy thinking in terms of abundance, in terms of prosperity, speaking abundance, acting abundance, believing that abundance is happening right now, no matter what the appearances are. Of course, abundance does not only relate to money and our finances. I use the idea in all areas of my life, such as travel, meeting people, having new experiences, both within and without. As many of you know, most recently I returned from a wonderful trip to Europe. Abundance already started at home when I was packing my suitcase. I packed more clothes than I would have ever needed. Let me tell you. Some of you probably relate to that.
Yep.
I went through my closet and picked this and that and the other, and in the end, when I when I put my suitcase on the scale, I discovered it weighed several pounds too many. So a few things needed to stay at home, but all the other experiences of abundance did not need to be curtailed. What I was taking, I had to make a decision. So they included the week visiting my sister Rosemary and the immediate family. What an abundance of love. My nephew Carsten and I went to pick up the twin boys. I've talked about these twin boys before. We picked them up from the kindergarten on that Friday. And Jonathan, one of the boys, had seen us coming from afar, and he came running toward us. He ignored his dad, and he ran toward me and giving me a big long hug and a big kiss, and his eyes were beaming when he was saying, "Brigitte, I'm a sensation coming once a year to my family." And his twin brother Leo was really cute. He looked around for his brother, because these two, they're always together. They play together, they don't need anybody else. And so Jonathan had disappeared, so he looked around, and so finally he came running too, and I got another big kiss and another big hug. And then I had one each on one hand each, And of course, Jonathan, he also held hands with his dad, so he was skipping and jumping. You know how kids like to do that. They just turned 6 years old, and it was fun when we got home how they proudly showed me their school bag, for going to school. In Germany, the different parts of Germany have different times for school to start, so they were going already in August. So that was fun too. So anyway, Jonathan, he had fun skipping and jumping, and Leo, on the other hand, he kind of looked And then he came around and he said, I want to do that too. So Jonathan traded places without objection. I mean, he's the one who is always very thoughtful. You know, Leo is the one who jumps immediately and then he wonders where he went. So they are totally different kids. And then at home it was afternoon, and the tradition in Germany is to enjoy Kaffee und Kuchen. That means coffee and cake. It was again one of the boys who decided where Brigitte was going to sit. And I was supposed to sit at the head of the table because each one wanted to sit right next to me. So they had that already determined. And of course, when their dad, put the cake on the table, it was Leo who decided which piece of that cake he wanted to have. And it was funny, but I noticed on several occasions that he usually picks always the largest piece for himself. I guess this is the way of claiming his abundance. He does that all the time with everything. You know, he always asks first looks and then the biggest part. So when I arrived in my home in Switzerland, I not only appreciated the abundance within me, but also the abundance surrounding me. From my balcony, I have a fabulous view of Lake Thun. You know, it's a huge lake that starts in Thun, and you can go all the way to Interlaken, which is quite a few hours on the boat. And across from that lake is a huge mountain. It's called Niesen. And sometimes when it rained during the night, the mountain was surrounded by an abundance of fog. Very interestingly to observe. And it was usually in the early morning hours. And in the distance, also from my balcony, you can see the three huge mountains. They are called Eiger, Mönch, and Jungfrau. You might have heard these three huge mountains. They have snow even during summertime. And they had at times snow caps early in the morning, which of course they melted quickly. And I only needed to hike from my home about 10 minutes up into the forest with its abundance of tall trees. And I mean, it is amazing how tall these trees are, which always was a very special experience for me. And of course, I'm also blessed by my family, friends, and by the community. One day I came together with my husband's relatives. It is cousin Werner and his wife Heidi. We took a boat ride on Lake Thun to Interlaken and continued then our tour by bus and train way up to an Alp. It's called Grimsel Alp, where we had a wonderful noontime meal. Of course, in Germany we eat our main meal at noontime. That's Mittagessen, and some of you may have already heard me say that. And then we continued on through lovely countryside with its abundance of forests, different kinds of trees assemble in different parts of forests. Always, every day I visited also at the home of my girlfriend Urte and her family. She and I, we have met in the 50s when we were skiing in the mountains. That is how long our friendship goes back. And so almost every day I visited at the home of my girlfriend and her family. And Urte and I, we love to play cards. And every summer we look forward to that activity, playing cards, Romme. And the abundant opportunity also of catching up on everything that happened during the year. One evening we went to the music festival and we saw Cats. with its abundance of wonderful singing and dancing. Again, very much enjoyed. Every year she has tickets for the two of us to go and see a performance. So one week also my sister came to visit with me, and we had a wonderful time together. She loves to go shopping. It's amazing. She goes from one store to the other looking at clothing. She's not always buying something, but she loves to look around and see what's there, and sometimes then I pick up something too, because I very much rely on the taste that my sister has. You know, I put it on and I say, what do you think? And then whatever she says goes, because she has also good taste. So it seems that my time there was passing by much too fast. On the other hand, of course, I'm also happy to travel home again, as you can imagine, because, you know, these were about 7.5 weeks that I was gone. So in closing, I'm reminded of the words by Ernest Holmes in his book, The Science of Mind. On page 405, he says, and I quote, "If it is God's pleasure to give us the kingdom, then it should be our privilege to accept the gift." So you see, there is activity on our part that needs to be had. We need to accept it. And of course, God's kingdom is filled with abundance, and so therefore, let us claim it. Let us give also thanks for that abundance that is everywhere present. We just need to open our eyes, accept it, and be grateful. And so I want to thank you for listening this morning.
Thank you.
Several people had said, are you going to talk about
Vacation.
vacation?
Yes.
So I worked it in, Mary.
Okay, there you go.
I'm gonna
I love her
hide.
talks about vacation and those little boys.
Yeah, they are just
They are something, aren't they?
And now they are in school, you know.
Mhm.
Okay.